Hello, everybody. My name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today, we're going to be discussing David French attacking Hulk Hogan and David French's take on masculinity, both of which are sad and laughable. And we're going to discuss why David French is doing the devil's work in today's video. But first, I want you to know Evangelical Dark Web is a Christian news gathering and commentary ministry. You can support our work over at evangelicaldarkweb.org/join. That's our Patreon-like system that gives you more access to bonus content and web pages and stuff like that, as well as the Zealot and Peacemaker tiers get a free copy of my upcoming book, Winning Not Winsome, 10 Commandments of Spiritual Warfare, which is coming out very soon. Good news on that. So anyway, the least you can do, though, is like this video, subscribe to the channel or podcast if you are new. Now, David French is... he's a writer for the New York Times, and he's not a good guy. He's a pretty bad person. He's a liberal, and he masquerades as a Christian, even though this guy has sold out every single Christian belief and has been rewarded to it to the tune of writing for the New York Times. So David French has sold out, and he's gotten his reward, and now he's doing the devil's work, which is what brings us to this latest column that he wrote. For his Sunday column, July 28th, he wrote, Hulk Hogan is not the only way to be a man. And he talks about the RNC and the Democrat Party. And he kind of makes a pitch to Kamala Harris to pick a certain candidate for vice president, which we'll get to in a second. But he starts by attacking the Republican Party and its national convention. He says, if you ever wondered whether the Republican Party sees itself as the party of men, I invite you to rewatch the last night of the Republican National Convention. Primetime focus features a rousing speech by the wrestling legend Hulk Hogan, a song by Kid Rock, which was terrible, by the way. Kid Rock is not good. Just full stop. Ripping off Metallica is lame. And a speech by Dana White, the chief executive of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, all as warm-up acts before Trump delivered his acceptance speech. Republican manliness was the capstone of the convention. I actually agree with that part of the David French take, is that the Republican Party needs to embrace the fact that it is the party of men, and it needs to embrace the masculinity and use that specifically to drive Hispanics to the Republican Party. I think that would be the play, not trying to get inner city blacks to support the Republican Party. That's a waste of resources, and you're not going to get anywhere with that. But Hispanics, there's actually some room to gain and some electoral college votes to flip, like in Nevada or Arizona and potentially New Mexico someday. But, what do I know? But what kind of men were featured? They're all rich and powerful and as a longtime fan of professional wrestling, I loved watching Hogan as a kid, but none of them are the kind of man I'd want my son to be. So, not rich and powerful. Got it. But let's see where he's going to go with this. White was caught on video slapping his wife. Dana White was also the founder of Power Slap, if I'm not, mistaken, which is pretty ironic. Kid Rock has his own checkered past, including a sex tape and an assault charge related to a flight in a Nashville strip club. First time I'm hearing of that. Hogan faced his own sex scandal after he had a bizarre sexual relationship with a woman who was married to one of his close friends, a radio host who goes by Bubba the Love Sponge. Now, that's a pretty interesting name. I know it's not the first time I've heard of this guy. I can't remember why I've heard of this guy. We know all about Trump, but it's worth remembering some of his worst moments, including a jury finding that he was liable for sexual abuse, his definition of his sex abuse victim, the Access Hollywood tape, and countless examples of his cruelty insulting women, the women he so plainly hates. Again, none of these were really big deals, especially, the jury finding him liable. I mean, there's not a reasonable jury that would have found Trump liable, but, it's jury nullification that's impacting Trump in this case, and, yeah. Anyway, then he goes on about J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is no different. no one should denigrate his personal story. He has overcome great diversity, served his country honorably as a Marine, and by all counts is a good husband and father. But now he wears the Trumpist masculinity like an ill-fitting suit. Last week, he was justifiably attacked for a 2021 interview with Tucker Carlson, in which he declared that the country is run via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies. He identified Harris, Kamala Harris, who has two stepchildren, as just the kind of person he was talking about. And David French included Kamala Harris having two stepchildren because, that somehow negates what J.D. Vance's criticism of Kamala Harris is, even though they're not her children, and therefore the criticism still stands. Let's just be real. He talks about the checkered past of these other people, but, it's glowing praise for Kamala Harris in many cases here. But let's go back to the Hulk Hogan criticism. And attacking Hulk Hogan, specifically with the headline and then later in the article, is just low. It is unbecoming of any believer to have done that, because this is how we should see Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan gets baptized, professes Christ. So late 2023, so December 2023, Hulk Hogan was baptized. He gave his life to Jesus Christ. He was baptized at Indian Rocks Baptist Church in Florida, a Southern Baptist church, by the way. So he's on Team Evangelical, and you love to see that. Hulk Hogan, whose real name is Terry Eugene Balea, is, retired professional wrestler, born 1953. So he's been around a long time. He's lived quite the life, and he does have an affinity for the new age, which is a little bit problematic. But nonetheless, he is baptized, so we should treat him like a baby Christian. And I just want to play his baptism video that he shared on social media. Right there, that's beautiful. I think that's his wife getting baptized with him. And I know, he has a checkered past where that's concerned, but I do also got to comment that it's kind of fun to see someone baptize someone much bigger than them on the left there. And that's not a small dude either, but, he's not Hulk Hogan size. So anyway, David French attacking Hulk Hogan, I think, is just low. It's unbecoming, and it's the devil's work to attack a baby Christian, modern terminology. I'm going to roll with it. For sin they committed before they were baptized. I think that's low. I think that's unbecoming. And I'm not surprised that David French would stoop to that level. Instead, David French, believes that William McRaven is the guy to emulate, because McRaven is famous for the whole make your bed thing, which to me, that's just, self-help nonsense. I don't really think there's any necessity to it or profundity to it. And then he also likes Mark Kelly, because, again, what has Mark Kelly, really done all that much? Former astronaut, fighter, but, liberal senator, which to me negates all of that. So, anyway, it's known, oddly enough, as the Make Your Bed speech. French writes, while it wasn't aimed at only men, every person who forwarded it to me was a man. It appealed to universal values, but it connected with men I know on a deep and profound level. And again, I don't think he runs in deep and profound circles if they thought make your bed was deep and profound advice. This is just another variation of the Jordan Peterson nonsense and self-help gurus. So that's my thought on that. But he goes on to say, but it's not that. But that's the masculine equivalent of a sugar high. He's talking about Trumpism. For solid food, look not to Hulk Hogan, look to William McRaven. It is often said, and I generally agree, that politics is downstream of culture, but we also cannot ignore the cultural power of our politicians. We aren't simply electing women or men, we're electing role models, and Trump has unquestionably been a role model for countless men. He has molded not just the policies, but also the ethos of the Republican Party. But America's men needed different role models and a different ethos. So I just got a comment. So what are your thoughts on Kamala Harris being a role model for women and Joe Biden being a role model for men? I think J.D. Vance is far more of a role model for men, but apparently he doesn't like the tone that J.D. Vance has used when it comes to talking about Kamala Harris. Again, this is just a low attack. This is basically rage bait to attack both J.D. Vance for his base comments on childless cat ladies and Hulk Hogan for being the most memorable part of the Republican National Convention, which totally got all the bros fired up in this white boy summer. So that's really what this is about, that he's got sour grapes over Trump having a very cool last night of the RNC, which really contradicted the very cringeworthy first night of the RNC, which was terrible, by the way. So they really front loaded their cringe in the RNC, but nonetheless, David French is petty, and the fact that he went after a baby Christian is low and unbecoming, and he's doing the devil's work, but that is not new. There's a reason why he writes for the New York Times. It's because he does the devil's work. So that's all I got to say about that for now. Pray for Hulk Hogan because, I want to see him be a great witness for Christ. I think that'd be awesome. I think that'll get, that would be so awesome. Like, we are so back. We are so back. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that for now. My name is Ray. This is the Evangelical Dark Web. Stay based. Christ is King. And we will catch you on the next one.